I'm Mandi Rae of Ecstatic Astrology, and I am here with Christa of Practical Astros. Hi, Christa.
Hi there.
We're going to talk about February.
Probably the most boring month of all year.
You're going to rue the day. I don't know what that exactly means, but I love that it's February this year. I'm going to call it February this year.
Rue the day. Well, rue as an herb. I love rue as an herb. Let's look it up real quick. Rue the day meaning.
What is it? Hey, AI,
to feel
can you tell
very
me?
sorry about an event. Yeah. Anticipatory grief. Okay, there we go. We've got the title, the running title for February. Not really.
Yes.
There's just a lot of very pivotal, meaning able to pivot, probably will pivot. Ominous, meaning full of omens. Big stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. So let's look at the calendar. Oh, my calendar. And Christa has a beautiful one as well. So we always share our calendars. And Christa, what is your mailing, your snail mail?
My moon mail. Yeah, I call it Selena Dromion because it's like a moon mail practice, but I've been kind of leaning towards calling it moon mail so people actually know what that is. But I send it every month and it's just about the season. I include my calendar and usually lots of little crafty things. It's usually circulated around the moon, but it's all of the astrology. And it just feeds my my creative, crafty pleasure self. I am making some new ones for Ostara, which is Easter, the equinox is coming up in March. The last one I sent out was for in bulk, so I usually follow around the cross quarter and the cross days for the year, which there's 8 of those. It's just an excuse for me to craft around the astrology. So
I love it.
Yeah.
And you always send out your beautiful calendar too, and it's just wonderful.
I like your calendar though, because it's like instantly, you just get the vibe. If you don't read it, you just get the vibe from the emojis. So
yeah. And we start off with a full moon in Leo, which I love it. This is like this full moon. It feels fun. It's like the fun before the chaos or something, I think. Because it's not, and we can look at it, it's not aspected by much. I guess you could say it's aspected by opposition, by everything opposite to it. So Aquarius has a stronghold in the universal battlefield right now, I guess. So we've got Pluto, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, all in Aquarius as we start the month. Rabbit. Well, I say it every first of the month. And the full moon is at 13 degrees, and it's just hanging out there. It's not really aspected at all. So I feel like it takes on more of the Leo, just Leo being Leo during this full moon. Fun, creativity, joy, laughter. And, we need to stay in touch with that. When everything's in Aquarius, things feel, at least this Aquarius season is like the Hindenburg, but it's like, you're kind of stuck looking at the bird's eye view with Aquarius. It's very detached and cold. And I'm not saying every Aquarius is like that. So I hope people don't think that. But as a sign, it is. And so with the full moon in Leo, it's like, just take a break from thinking so hard, from trying to scheme and think outside the box, and trying to prepare and trying to, do all of those very life serious adult things, and maybe take a break on this Sunday and have fun,
Yeah, this is in bulk. This is kind of the seed of life returning. So in so many cultures around the world, this early spring, you start to see, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, you start to see crocus and maybe even daffodils starting to kind of peek their blooms out. But it has this foil of being very stark and cold and maybe a little alien feeling, which is kind of the season of Aquarius. It's to hold that winter light for as long as it can before it starts to grow and to become spring. And it was just laughing looking at all of that in Aquarius. So we have Pluto at 3 degrees, Mars at 7, the Sun at 13, Venus at 19, and Mercury at 21. I know lots of Aquarians, Aquarian suns, Aquarius risings, and the sense of forcing 5 of them into a room like this to all have to kind of interact with each other. Mars and Pluto coming up with battle plans, Venus and Mercury coming up with some sort of revolutionary, relationship system, and the sun just kind of holding court in that middle degree. It's like all of that stuff coming out and then just landing in the Leo chapter, like landing on the moon, like all of this stuff, all of these ideas, all this ways of coming up with new systems and trying to bring in old ideas, because Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, which has that aged longevity. It's not just the future. The future also exists in what we have done in the past. Like there are cultures that have gone through all sorts of systems of reinventing the same thing over millennia, because at some point, you just return to kind of the old ways become revolutionary ways. So all of this re-systematic thought and ideas and forms of expression of creativity and action and finding the hidden treasure, all that stuff from all those Aquarius planets, then just gets laid out on the front lawn of the moon to be like, now what do we make of this? How do we make this tangible for everyone else, not just of our own ideas? And that middle decan of Leo is just chef's kiss. It is, it's called like a crown of laurel. It's about the tarot card associated with it is the 6 of Wands, and it shows a person on a horse, and they are riding with success, and they have this royalty about them. They have this, I've just completed competition where I was the victor. And so I have this sense of, I'm going to enjoy the riches of my conquest, just even if only for a little while. And so the fact that the moon is there is like all those ideas that come from Aquarius, they get pulled through the channeling of Aquarius, get laid on the horse to kind of parade around on the moon to be like, this is what we have. This is what we can offer. This is what we can celebrate. So I like this full moon chart for that, just having that balance between those crazy ass ideas that Aquarius pulls, but then seeing it in a successful way with that Leo, that middle decan of Leo.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to describe it. And I mean, as far as, what rituals and what actions you take around the full moon, I think this one's going to reflect from the new moon in Capricorn, because that was the previous new moon. And I like it when we're kind of out of sign with the new moon and the full moon, because you think you plant seeds at the new moon and they kind of bloom at the full moon on the short time scale of the month. And the new moon being in Capricorn, which was, like, what do you want to accomplish? And then the full moon in Leo is almost reveling in and making some headway in some way, so I do think it's a good time to just try to be in your joy and try to pat yourself on the back. I mean, that's kind of what Leo does. Leo needs attention, so give yourself some attention on this full moon, I think.
Yeah, and maybe it's just my algorithm, but what I'm seeing more and more of is people reminding me, and whoever else is listening to that reel or that video, that, the attention that you give to things comes back and is amplified. And so it's not to bury your head in the sand of anything negative that is happening in the world or in your own life or your own choices, but choosing to feed the ones that are more reciprocally positive is a way to generate more of that to happen. And there is a bit of positivity mindset that can become toxic, but the positivity mindset for Leo is like to have hope that things will continue to grow, that things will continue to shine, that things will continue to be celebrated so that there can be play. With the state of the world, with lots of conflict and all the things that I really don't even want to talk about because of this, it's like we have that, it exists, and it may feel paralyzing to do anything else but consume that information, because you want to know what's going on. You want to know how to respond. You want to know how to support. You want to know how to defend, all these things, like basic, preparation 101. But the other end of it is an antidote to all of that disorder of chaos and difficulty. You can create and you can make beautiful things and you can channel the best of us through the creative act, which is what that Leo kind of compels us to do. And that as an antidote to all that we know is going on, you can do those simultaneously. So you can obsess about all the things in the Aquarius chapter, the larger, broader context of the world, our universe, our old systems and new systems and how they clash. But what we can do, the moon as kind of the order of the people, is to create out of joy. Like that itself is the antidote to puncture all of these overarching Saturnian things that come out of the Saturn house. And to a word on just your Capricorn new moon. It's like Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. The houses opposite to them, the signs opposite to them, are ruled by the luminaries. So even thinking of the new moon of Capricorn and Aquarius and the full moon of in Cancer Leo, it's like we're looking at those pairings of signs. So it is out of sign for kind of what we've looked at, but I like thinking of it in both the Saturn houses and then in the sun and moon houses as like a kind of adjacent pair because they're Saturn ruled.
I love that. Yeah, I think this is a good one. I'm excited about the first day of the month, and it gets going quick because after this full moon is Uranus direct, which that happens on the 3rd, and at least Central US time. Uranus direct is to me going to feel fast. I mean, it just feels fast, you know? So we're going to be in Gemini, and it's going to go retrograde in Gemini in September, but it's not going to go back into Taurus. So this is the last Uranus direct for Taurus. And
for 84 years.
84 years. I think it's funny that the Titanic chose that as the line that the old woman said. It's been 84 years, you know? Yeah, that's how it feels. So is her Uranus return. How funny. How funny. So in Taurus, Uranus speeds up any sign that it's in. And Taurus is such a slow, steady, deliberate sign. I mean, and I feel like being Venus ruled, even money markets have changed fast and things like that are speeding up. Like the price of silver is wild right now. So Uranus direct, although I don't think the day really is a huge marker for much, I do think that you're going to start to notice things speeding up a little bit. And that's just kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, and if you have a 27 degree fixed placement, you know, it'll either conjoin it if it's in Taurus, square it if it's in Aquarius, Leo, or oppose it in Scorpio. So, and if you're in a Taurus perfection year, you know, like that station may speak a little bit louder. But besides that, you know, the outer planets aren't really as loud. I think of it as just the volume. You can actually register the volume once it gets within a degree. Outside of that, it can be like a lot of static. Like you think maybe is that what that transit's supposed to be? If it's a few degrees away, it's hard because they're so incrementally slow, because from our position on Earth, they are so far away. So if you do have a 27 degree fixed placement, then, you know, I think that or an Earth placement, you know, because the Taurus will trine anything around 27 Capricorn or 27 Virgo. So you may feel it just from that alone.
My Mars is 28 Virgo.
Yeah. So you can do some field reporting and let us know how that is. My husband has a 27 degree Taurus moon. So this has been on his moon for a while. And I at this point, like Uranus going through Taurus, I'm kind of used to it. So I'm always a little wistful of whenever a planet leaves a sign, usually. I mean, I was ready for Mars to get the fuck out of Gemini when that did a couple of years ago.
God, that was a long one. Yeah.
Uranus
I
and Gemini,
agree.
though, is going to be a pretty wild ride. And it goes with in Chinese astrology, we're in period 9, which is a fire period. We're going into a fire horse here. So it coincides with this fiery, fast, kind of frenetic
Hmm.
energy. But it will be here for what, 8, 9 years. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And something I didn't put on my calendar, but that is happening right after this, February 5th, Mercury square Uranus.
hmm,
And that could be a time when you do palpably feel that Mercury is, communication, thought, how you think. In Aquarius, there a lot can be said about, and I don't think there's any way to avoid talking about what's going on in the United States right now, and really all over the world. I mean, let's just be honest, because it's a global thing now. But
hmm,
I feel like this could just, this could be more protests and things of that nature. I associate Uranus with that because it can be rebellion and
hmm,
revolution. And so
hmm.
Mercury, the way we communicate in a collective sign like Aquarius squaring Uranus and Taurus, um, there could be something surprising that week that, you just have a change in thought, or I just can't do it the same way anymore. I've got to change something.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, when will Mercury conjoin it? Yep. So this is the last Mercury Uranus connection from fixed signs. So that's just something to be noted. It's really the last time Mercury is going to encounter Uranus and Taurus at all. So
Mm-hmm.
quick thing. February 5th is quick. But because Uranus goes direct on the 3rd, I think this will be that ping of,
Yeah.
oh, Uranus is direct. My mind is changing here, or I need to do something about this, or usually squares are tension. So you're getting tension from a planet that really wants change, So this is a good time to change something, change
Mm-hmm.
your thought patterns, your habits, in order to get comfy with what's coming for us in the future. So,
Yeah.
and
I'm
right
gonna
after
see it as
this,
like on the 3rd with that Uranus direct. Like maybe you have this sense of like, huh, I never thought about it that way. Just like this thing that just comes out of like I it's like worth asking your friends, like, how do you view this situation in my life? Like from what I've shared, how do you view it? Because they will
mm-hmm,
come up with reflection that maybe it's clear to everyone else around you, but not clear to you. So like even
mm-hmm,
asking for friends, like, okay, I'm having this certain issue in this sector of my life. How does it look like from your perspective? And just get that. So it could be that first like, I never considered that before. And then 2 days later, when they square, it's like it's been you kind of chewing on that for a couple of days and being like, fuck, that's what this is. Like this is the
mm-hmm,
core. They had helped me identify it. This is the core of how I gotta fix it. And that in itself may not be fun, but they have helped you. You've relied on the group, that Aquarian side, to help reveal something to you in your Taurus part of your chart.
mm-hmm. And I mean, I kind of am looking forward to this because right after this, Mercury enters Pisces, and then we all go, huh? And that's
Like,
February
I'm
6th.
sorry that I reflected like honestly upon you.
I'm so sorry. I do have, what do I have for my little emoji? It is, yeah. I mean, that's what kind of Mercury entering Pisces feels like. Like,
Mm,
I got to think about this, or really, it's actually more like I don't need to think about this. I need to intuit this. And,
mm-hmm.
Mercury in Pisces is, I just feel like it, like you said, we were talking before and you said vibes, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
vibes. So I'm looking forward to Mercury in Pisces, because there will be a Mercury retrograde, which does not sound like a sane thing for an astrologer to say. But I am specifically looking forward to this Mercury retrograde in Pisces because it'll trine Jupiter 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I have this up here because I just wanted to put a little lay of the land as we get started in February. Um, Mercury goes retrograde February 26th. We have it down here. Um, goes direct March 20th at 8 degrees. So it'll be in shadow by the 11th. So it's almost like enjoy the first part of Mercury in Pisces is what I'm getting at, because it's not in shadow yet. You can kind of, you know, intuit, get in touch with that creative, spiritual ether, that there is all around us for the first few days of the month before Mercury goes into shadow. So is there anything else about Mercury and Pisces? It's not really doing much of anything until it gets further on in. So
yeah, when it trines Jupiter, and if it goes back to 8, so it'll meet up with Venus, it'll meet up with the Sun, it meets up with the North Node, so it'll have some adventures in Pisces land. It's funny that I I was thinking about that first week after it ingresses into Pisces, but then before it kind of hits that degree of which it will turn direct in March. To me, I think of the water houses being like Alice in Wonderland story, and the Follow the White Rabbit is like this guide of Mercury Pisces. It's like it does not make any sense, and I'm gonna follow it anyway. And so Mercury at the 0 degree before the 8 is like Alice, the beginning of the story. She's just in her garden. She's reading a book. She's lamenting that her book has too many words. She just wants pictures, and she's playing with her cat. And then she sees a white rabbit and she like follows it to the tree stump. And so once it enters the shadow is like her falling down the tree stump into Wonderland. But before that, she's just kind of in this like dreamy, easy, not really wanting to think, just wanting pictures. That to me, that is like the Mercury Pisces before it goes into the shadow. Once she falls down the tree into Wonderland, she kind of enters into that whole underworld journeying. But this is like the garden time. Just relax and read. Maybe pick up a book that you loved a long time ago and you just want to reread it now,
Yeah. Yeah. Listen to the song of your soul that first week.
Or read Alice in Wonderland.
That would be a really good thing to do, right? A really good practice, as we say. So then February 8th, Venus squares Uranus. And we're going to have that. So Mercury did it, then Venus will do it, the Sun will do it, Mars will do it. So this is like a parade of change. That's what it feels like. And Venus, being the planet of the one of the brighter stars, it's beautiful in the sky. We can't see it right now. It's love, it's beauty, it's aesthetics, it's what we value. In Aquarius, this is I guess with the lens of the collective, with the lens of the groups of people around you, who you associate with, your future. And, with it square Uranus, it seems like there's a value shift here, and it could be that we're all in these friend groups and, someone says, I don't pay attention to politics. And that bugs you, because you're like, how can you just ignore it right now? And it changes the values in that group. And that's sort of what I'm getting. And of course, money can come up with Venus as well. Like I know that there is a economic protest scheduled for the 30th, which is like, don't buy anything, don't go shopping, don't do this. And even though that's not the Venus square Uranus, it screams that to me. That is the very thing that could happen. And maybe you're seeing the fallout from that. Maybe it works. I don't know. But it definitely, Venus squares to Uranus are less stressful than Mars, probably less stressful than the Sun, because Venus is always trying to act on our behalf, but there is, because Uranus is in Venus's territory in Taurus, there is something fundamentally that changes about our values, maybe the way we spend money, maybe the people that we love based on the things that we're seeing in the collective, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that for looking at ways to positively connect with each other through Venusian things. breaking us free from old, monetary systems. I look at Venus, Uranus kind of being forced to contend with that square as forced mutual aid, but then creating mutual aid systems outside of crisis. That's the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. But maybe even using this as kind of the impetus of here in Western North Carolina, we got hit by Hurricane Helene. Everything was demolished. We relied on each other. And so from that, we have already developed systems of response and mutual aid. Everybody's got their telephone chain. We all have our, bug out bags and our candles and our everything. We know the neighbors around us. We from crisis, we were able to develop systems of support the next time it came around. And I look at this, I like the idea of boycotting with dollars, because the dollar or money is kind of what drives most people. And so if we want change, if we want financial change within our own economic structures, finding revolutionary ways to circumnavigate those, which is kind of that last decan of Aquarius. It's the 7 of Swords, and it shows this guy kind of dressed in a costume, like leaving, it looks like a Ren fair with swords in his hands. Like, it doesn't look ideal, but he's kind of, it's a little trickstery, and Venus being there, of like being liberated from what she's expected to do to still get her purpose done, to still connect with people and support people and have fertility. To me, it's like a good support, a good breakthrough with that Uranus there. So may, old systems kind of be shot and new systems to be grown. It's like, just throw the old plans away if they're just not working anymore, and be okay with it. Just break through this stalemate of whatever that connection with Venus is. And, spending, like voting with your dollars, having mutual aid, connecting with people, and being a bit fearless and maybe a bit trickstery about it. Like, who cares? Like, nobody really plays by the rules anymore. And that's what that Venus in that last decan of Aquarius is like. Make your own rules for more that have longevity, that have a more sense of justice, have a bigger sense of actually supporting and nourishment, which is what that Venus really wants. And Scorpio, so it's like it's teaching us, sometimes you just have to figure things out on your own.
Yeah. And I mean, that should be noted that the moon's gonna be squaring Mars during this too. And it is the third quarter square of the moon heading into an eclipse. So I could see this being a big moment in the news or something. But the funny thing is, it's a Sunday, Saturday night into Sunday here. But that Monday, and let's go back to the calendar, is the 9th. And so that's the first full week, right? And you had a full moon, Uranus direct, Mercury square Uranus, Mercury under Pisces, Venus square Uranus, already a pretty busy month. And it just gets busier. This second week only has, 3 big transits. Venus entering Pisces, really excited about that.
Yep.
Super excited. Venus in Pisces is exalted, and it's just twinkly and magical. That's why I chose the little rainbow emoji, because it just feels sparkly. It feels like what, if you ever watched the movie Twilight, when the vampires go outside and their skin sparkles. Oh, yeah. Like, that's what a Venus in Pisces reminds me of. And that happens on the 10th. And this is, we're building up to Saturn in Aries, which happens that Friday. So it's like, for at least this one moment, let me get Venus in Pisces. It's like, just enjoy that ingress on Tuesday. But it should be said that Pisces can be illusion. It can be confusing. And the fact that Venus squares Uranus and then Venus moves directly into Pisces, it's like, I could see something behind the scenes going on with structures, government, something like that, with even the Federal Reserve in America. There's something about this Venus ingress that makes me go, what is the Venus in Pisces? It's always really nice and inspirational, and it feels really twinkly, but you have to remember it feels that way because there's things going on behind the scenes. It's like, don't look over here, look over, look over here. It's so pretty. It's so fun and sparkly, but there are things going on behind the scenes. And I think that's going to be fairly easy to see when we get to Saturn and Aries. But overall, the ingress, I'm excited about it. The moon's square it when it ingresses in Sagittarius, and I don't mind a moon square Venus, especially from these two signs.
Yeah. Yeah. What I'm thinking of is in our group chat with some other astrologers, Sonia messaged a couple of days ago, and it's been really sticking with me. And she was like, don't forget that in Pandora's box, that hope was also in there. It's like all these things escape Pandora's box, but what's left is hope. And I wonder if like that release, that liberation of Venus square Uranus is like the opening of Pandora's box. And then as she moves into Venus, it's like, but what remains is hope. And like hope springs eternal, but hope springs eternal when you're in the circumstances that require that. So it is nuanced, but we get that, we might have clouds, but we have silver linings, like all that. I appreciate that Venus is going to be in Pisces, being next to Mercury, being next to the North Node, saying goodbye to Saturn pretty soon. That she gets to just enjoy her temple unencumbered by the malefics, because Saturn will be out of sight and Mars will be out of sight while she's in Pisces. So yeah, enjoy this like really beautiful, exalted, royal, celebratory Venus transit through Pisces.
Yes, we're all excited. And now for the main event. Saturn on Friday the 13th here moves into Aries. And I messed up. I thought it was Valentine's earlier. It's actually Friday the 13th, but for Europe, it is Valentine's Day. And it's in the evening Central Time and Eastern Time in America. So being a Friday, a Venus day. And okay, so there's a lot to be said about this, and I don't want to get too in the weeds. Saturn is structure, it's boundaries, it is government, it is authority, mastery. You could say so much about Saturn, obstacles. And once it moves into Aries, which is the let's just say it's like the gas, it's gasoline. Aries wants to move and wants to do, and Saturn comes in and goes, hold on a minute. This has gone too far. We got to structure this up. We got to figure it out. But then you have the fog of Neptune sitting there right in front of Saturn. Like, whoa, how do I even rein this in? So I think Saturn and Aries eventually will be a very formative time for people, where we do get our stuff together and the actions we take are deliberate toward the end of this transit. But the beginning of it is going to feel, and I don't normally say stuff like this, but it's going to be depressing. I think it's going to be not exactly at the very beginning. It's just oppressive. It feels like you have to slow down. You can't act. You have to almost kowtow to the greater authority that is out there that's trying to do whatever it's doing. Yeah. And I that's the first degrees of any sign. We're talking about baby steps at the beginning, no matter what. So,
but with Neptune there, I think it's just like harder to identify what that's going to be. What's coming to mind is, you look at like, I love old things, and I like old, like marketing images from like the 20s and 30s. It is like the aesthetic. And on New Year's, they would always have like Father Time and Baby New Year, right? They'd have these two characters. And Saturn and Aries is like, what if both of those were like the same person? What if Father Time and Baby New Year were actually just one person? And it's like, the tension of motivation between baby new year and father time is so opposite, but that's what Aries and Saturn feels like. Saturn and Aries feels like. So it's like Saturn appreciates longevity and things taking a long time and slowness and diligence. The thing about Aries that I think also has some synthesis with Saturn is the edge. So we can see, the 7 traditional planets. They're just this planets that we can see without any sort of mechanism. We can see Saturn. You can see Saturn in the sky when it's visible. And there's no clouds or trees or buildings or whatever. So you can see Saturn with your own eyes. That's the furthest we can see with our own eyes. After that, we can see Uranus and Neptune and Pluto with telescopes, with a mechanism. But before that, Saturn was the limit. And so Saturn is the limitation. Saturn is the edge. And if you have people with a lot of Aries, they know how to go to the edge. They are familiar with the edge. That kind of requires them to go to the edge because they are that pioneer to seek the edge, to lead the rest of us to follow. They are the first sign in zodiacal order for a reason, because they are bold, they are adventurous, they're a bit selfish, because it requires that to be able to go to those heights, to reach that ledge. And I it's like a different kind of edge, but I feel like there's some sort of comfort that Aries may have in that place, even if it is lonely and further away from everybody else. But Saturn in Pisces just has this edged feel. And maybe we've all find the limits to our own compassion, or our limits to our own bandwidth, our limits to our own work ethic, whatever it is. We may be challenged by the limitations that we have set for ourselves. We may need to bring them in closer to ourselves. We may need to push them out further. I think that could be part of the tension that we feel, is that we have to redefine what those edges are. It could be your learning edge, like if there has been some sort of emotional arrested development in your life, Saturn and Aries transit may challenge that. And how you choose to respond to that is maybe how you will experience this transit. So Aries demands us to kind of step up to the challenge. And I think that Neptune in Aries is also going to be there to help us maybe not see all of the dangers in the dark, that we'll still be bold enough to just stand up and find what that edge is. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be nuanced and quiet and internalized necessarily. I think that it's going to be a witnessable transit for most people. And there's other fiery things happening, right? We're going to have Jupiter going into Leo this year. We have the air stuff. We have Uranus going into Gemini. We have Pluto and Aquarius that are fuel for that oxygen for those fires. So it's going to all be inflamed. And in a way, it's like, well, Saturn's there to damper it down a little bit. When Mars and Saturn come together, that's going to be a whole different story. I think it happens in April. But Saturn just there with Neptune. I mean, it's worth to kind of consider what it is, because we have 2 years to really see how this is going to play out. And,
yes.
This happens every 30 years. Plenty of people are about to start their Saturn return in Aries, their first, second, or third, or fourth, if you live that long enough. So this is not a transit that we are unfamiliar with, but if you're under 30, you've never experienced this before. So welcome. Welcome to the 1950s. There was lots of great music that came out of this transit.
That's right. Yeah, and Saturn's in fall in Aries too. So I think you're right. It's funny what you said about the edge. Saturn kind of reminds me of, like, if you've ever been to a canyon, like Canyonlands or something like that. I don't have a dog, but I imagine if I brought my dog with me and it ran toward the edge, I would rush to find the leash, and I do feel like Saturn's going to try to do that a little bit, but it doesn't have much agency in Aries. So we'll see. I'm excited, but like a nervous excitement,
Yeah. Yeah. Especially for, I think, night charts. Saturn is the malefic contrary to sect. So if your sun is below the horizon line, if you have the sun in the second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth houses, but even in the first and seventh, if it's under that AC/DC line, You're of the night sect. Saturn is the one that causes you the most trouble. And so that could be an issue, like that Saturn not being, I mean, there's two trains of thought. Do you want Saturn to be empowered, or do you want Saturn to have to work harder? And so there's kind of pros and cons to both. But Saturn not being supported, and for night sect people, if Saturn's going to have a hard time, it may give you a harder time. So just consider that. I'm a day sect, so my Saturn transits are different than if I was born at night. Mars is a whole different story for us day sect people. So it's not like, we were let off easy. It's just a different, the thing about Saturn is like the nature of Saturn is to endure. Yeah. And that's the challenge with Aries, is that Aries wants to start. It doesn't want to endure. It wants to start and then start again and start again and start again. That's what it's good at. The enduring thing is for the following sign, for Taurus, with the fixed sign. So it's like, that's that tension of Saturn requires you to endure. So how can you temper that Aries fire so that you can endure longer and not suffer as much during this transit? Because a good bit of suffering does fortify you and makes great art. It propels you. It's the agitation that propel you to go forward in life. So there will be plenty of great stuff that comes out of this transit, but it's a world changing transit, especially with it being connected to Neptune. So it's to me, it's like the eclipse in Aquarius is the biggie, but Saturn going into Aries is kind of like the one for the month that I'm paying the most just mental attention to, because I know how palpable it will be for everyone.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the way these things get dropped almost is funny. It's like, like you release the album and it's like, oh, but I got a new single to drop like the 2 days after it, which is Sun square Uranus. So, Mars already wants to make change right now in Aquarius. I think Mars in Aquarius is really pushing the boundary. Like you said, Aries does anyway. So with Saturn in Aries, and then you have Sun square Uranus, it's just a lot of, it's buzzy.
Just challenge.
Yeah. It's challenge. It's busyness. It's, a lot. And so let's look at the Sun square Uranus, because
it almost feels like a bit of like there's a competitive spirit in the air. Like I remember when I binged watched The Sopranos for the first time, I would get off work and I would go home and I would watch just episode after episode after episode. And because I was doing that, when I would drive around my town, my very safe, normal town, I would be like, eyeing everybody because I thought they were out to kill me, because I was like consuming Sopranos where they like clipped people all the time. That's kind of like what I imagine like it can be. This is an intense sequence of days with Saturn going into Aries, the Sun square Uranus, and then the eclipse building up to it. It's like that competitive need to prove yourself. What's the pioneer versus the warrior versus the jerk? It's like, what is that line? It's just like that busyness, that static, that electricity, that momentum, all of that, because that's when we enter the eclipse window, is that the eclipse that happens like 2 days later. And so it does feel, it's like a heightened sense of tension, but the word competition or like, you're not going to do it in isolation. It's going to be kind of engaging and pinging off the people that are surrounding you. That's how it's.
Yeah. Yeah, I've already gotten signals in my own life from this weekend in particular. Like I'm working Valentine's Day and I bartend, and they want to do a wine tasting. And I was like, that's great. No one's going to tip me. And they were like, what do you mean? And I was like, you're giving away free wine. They don't tip me for free wine. Like, hello. And that's just a very minor thing. But I think about that's that weekend, and it's already coming up as something that, and the moon will be with Mars on this day, February 15th. It's approaching Mars. And I could see it being hairy. It's hairy that weekend, and I think you're going to find out a lot about yourself this weekend. Everyone will. And the Sun square Uranus is just like, it makes sense for me, even with that example. Aquarius is my 8th house. Taurus is my 11th house.
Mm.
And the little money thing, I was worried. I was like, man, I'm going to be there 12 hours that day and I'm not going to make any money. And I'm already like
Yeah.
spinning my wheels on how do I change this for myself. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that is a really good example of the Sun square Uranus here on the 15th. It's because, there's something here, and we've already said it with Mercury, and then we said it with Venus. Something's got to change. And
Mm.
that's why this parade of squares to Uranus, and it's just going to keep revealing each page. You're going to be flipping a page where you're like, yep, that needs to change. Yep, I still have to change it. Yep, I need to change it. And this is the third of 4 pages because Mars will do it later on. But I think with the moon in Aquarius heading to the solar eclipse this weekend, it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's on a Sunday that the sun squares Uranus.
Mm-hmm. Sundays in
and
February are loud.
they really are.
Yeah.
And just, I don't want to keep harping on what's going on, but it's impossible to ignore. There's very, very serious things happening in America. And the protest fervor is there.
Mm-hmm.
The fight for your right thing is there. So with it being the sun, I just feel like that could be, especially the Saturday, the 14th, with the Saturn and freshly in Aries, could be a big one for the collective.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you do with that personally? It's really hard for me, personally speaking, to know and to ask yourself why is this in one city? Or, I know it's not just one city, but there's a focal point, and and it's not in my city, but I'm extremely invested in it and I care and I want things to get better, but it's not happening in my town, and so to know how to enact some change in the greater scheme of things, from my little chair in Birmingham, Alabama, to something as big as what's going on. And I think that's a struggle. I think a lot of people are feeling like that in the United States and possibly in other countries, watching what's happening, because
Mm-hmm.
we all know once something happens in one country, it's like a domino effect,
Yeah.
So I think this day could be one where everyone takes a look around and is like, what do I do from my little spot in the world? How do I change things? And I think that's the nature of Aquarius. If it were Leo, it'd be much more personal. Like if the sun were in Leo squaring Uranus and Taurus. But in Aquarius, it feels like everybody is going through this,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just wonder about this type of transit. It's the sun. So the sun as almost representing like the path of the soul that's taking, and being squared by that Uranus in Taurus, which is direct. So it has kind of a marching orders, to deal with this before it moves into Gemini. Mm-hmm. And so what comes up is just basic accountability. It's hard to be accountable to other people, but if you want actual change in any area of life, whether it is political or community related or personal or romantic or work related, you can look at the areas of Aquarius Taurus to get clues if you don't know. But if there is something that is untenable in your life, looking at that square as, in order for there to be a change, I need to have an accountability partner. And so who is going to hold me accountable so that I can actually see that this change is going to happen for good? Because when change happens in fixed houses, they usually are there they change for a reason, and they can change and be there for a long time. So they may be slow going, but we've had Aquarius, Sun, square Uranus and Taurus for a number of years. This is the final one. And so just what comes to me is like finding someone that you trust, that can hold you accountable, and asking for help. That you've done a lot of work up to this point, but asking for help to actually make this change. And it could be something very mundane, Like the moon
Mm.
exalts in Taurus, the moon rules the mundane every day. I found a new word. It's quotient. And it's all about like something that happens every day. It is mundane, but when you change something every day, then that ripples out for much longer, more systemic and fundamentally supportive change. So I just, you might feel the pressure of this moment, but seeing if you're listening to it before February 15th, think about the areas of Aquarius and Taurus for you. What do you want to change, especially in the Aquarius part of your sector? What do you want to change? And who can be your accountability ally in order to hold your feet to the fire to be able to change it? And that could be politically related. It could be protest related. It could be government related. It could be financial, all these things. It just, it's kind of a chance to actually make some change, even if it is very small. Small change can build into bigger change. So globally, we can just see what happens on this day, on this Sunday, because it could be things come out of nowhere. That's the that's the party trick of Uranus, is that it just comes out of the blue. You can backtrack it and be like, yeah, we totally should have seen that coming. But it can just be kind of placed upon you to radically change a situation. But in your personal life, I think you can look ahead and try to identify it ahead of time and cut it off before it completely destroys everything around it.
I agree. And this happens at 11 p.m. Central Time, February 15th. And then at 1 p.m. the next day, Mercury trines Jupiter just before the solar eclipse. And to have the sun square Uranus and then Mercury trine Jupiter exactly is very much you have to mentally deal with it, I think. I mean, Jupiter expands whatever it touches, whether it's a trine or a square. And just because it's a trine doesn't mean it won't have your mind racing. I feel like if there is news that next day, it's going to be lots of talk, lots of chatter about it. But also just in terms of everything you were just talking about, that's what Mercury is, like that in between planet, and it's like the little minion of the sun. So the sun squares Uranus, and the Mercury is like, okay, I got to deal with this. I got to tap into my intuition. I got to tap into my feelings and figure out how to do that. And it's going to do it 3 times. So I don't necessarily feel like we need to spend a whole lot of time on that because it's still present. We should probably just go to the eclipse.
Yeah, because it'll still be like a degree away from trine. I mean, the thing about a trine, especially in water, is that there's like flow, there's momentum, there's speed. So it could be that you identify emotionally what is now speeding up. And I think that leading up to the eclipse, having that square energy with Sun and Uranus, and then having that fluid trine between Mercury and Jupiter, we looked ahead before recording and looked at the new moon in Leo, which is the eclipse on August 12th of 2026. Jupiter and Mercury are going to be together. So like they also have kind of a signature in both the Aquarius eclipse and the Leo eclipse. But leading up to eclipses is usually when we feel the eclipse moments before, the eclipse, when it actually perfects, isn't always necessarily the moment when that's when things turn on. It's usually like the amplification up to it. It's like you were talking about like releasing an album. So much of the work is done beforehand that by the time you release the album, like now, yes, it's out, but then you've had like your album release show, you've had all the marketing, you've had radio interviews, you've had all the planning of the production, you've like sent it out to, it's just like so much pre-work before the actual album release. And that's kind of the eclipse. It's like all the action I think is going to be taking place. Saturn goes into Aries, Sun, Uranus square, this Mercury trine Jupiter, and then the eclipse, like happening basically one day after the other. That's how we're going to see. I think we're going to blame it all on the eclipse because that's what we do. That emotional connection between Mercury and Jupiter there in the water signs, I think is going to be like a pressure release valve for us to be able to just channel it so that we can kind of get in touch with the sense of justice and protection and nourishment and like what feeds our soul, because there's all this other shit going on that I can't process. So I'm just going to be able to try to process it in the emotional way. So I'm thankful that Mercury is actually in Pisces for this reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, just the new moon itself is square Uranus, or the solar eclipse. And I know that, like you said, it perfects before this, but I agree with the emotional release valve, because it's eclipses are fated events. You don't really direct them. That's when things are just dropped in your lap. And to be square Uranus, I do feel like this solar eclipse is a huge one. It's the kickoff of the eclipses in Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
And Aquarius is such a cold, detached sign, like we said, and it just really does take on that bird's eye view that will have the connection of Mercury and Jupiter in water signs to help us process it, because I do feel like it's going to be something that needs to be processed. I mean, dark moons are quiet, and this one is not. It's not with Mercury trying Jupiter, now that doesn't mean you won't want to be in your house, and I probably will be. I'll be hunkering down. No, I'm lying. I'm bartending that night. It's Mardi Gras. That's right.
That's right. But it's in the morning. When it perfects, it's early in the morning. So
it's true. Yeah, the moon goes into Pisces pretty quick after this, which is, thank goodness, but it is, I think it's so funny because it is Fat Tuesday, Mardi Gras, and the Chinese New Year. Valentine's happened that weekend. And I noted that when I was looking at this eclipse, it's almost showing in the way our holidays have bunched up right here. And how much how much collective things are just happening all at the same time, even with our holidays.
It's the convergence of all of them, so we can all use this moment as the start of the year. That's how it feels, because the moon is like the people in the mundane world. So it's like this lunar new year is like, now the year begins. Up until like January, up until February 16th, it still feels like 2025. We get these hints of it, but like once this eclipse happens, that's when I think that the whole theme of 2026 will be very apparent to everyone, that this is kind of the beginning of the year.
Yeah. And, let's just look, because things keep happening. They just keep happening, because we have the solar eclipse on the 17th, and I have a mad face because it just feels like Mars is there. It just feels like determined. Actually, that's the word I looked up for that emoji, was determined, because it feels like people are really determined to do something around this time with Saturn and Aries. And I do feel like when you make a commitment in Aquarius, it sticks, so there is that. But then you have the sun entering Pisces, and then the end of this week is the Saturn Neptune conjunction. So you got a solar eclipse on Tuesday, and then the thing that plenty of astrologers have been looking at for plenty of years, the Saturn Neptune conjunction. So yeah, February is just huge, and this eclipse moment is just one piece of it. But I do think it's like preparation, I like what you said. It's the beginning of the year. It is like, okay, what's coming? What is the lay of the land? What do I have to do? What do I want for myself? And then boom, Saturn conjoins Neptune.
So I will say we weren't going to spend too much time on Sun to Pisces, because, it's kind of happening just like nuanced on its own. But if you're listening to this and you follow our YouTube channels, a thing to help astrologers out, if you like this sort of information, is to like the video, is to comment anything underneath that just feeds the algorithm monster. It's to check out our other socials. Mandi Rae's is Ecstatic Astrology and Practical Astros. In the communal realm of hope and Jupiterian, Venusian themes, I just wanted to throw out. We usually kind of add it on at the end, but I was like, since we're not going to spend too much time with Sun and Pisces, I'm just going to plug our work, because this is what we do for a living. We love doing it. We love sharing it with you. These are free videos. And we ask that if you do like it, that you reciprocate back just from engagement. And it doesn't take much, but we appreciate it. And so that'll be my little side. I didn't tell Mandi I was doing that. And I was like, I'm just going to plug that in right there.
I'm glad you did. I'm also glad that you mentioned Sun in Pisces, because that it does feel like a little break after the eclipse with the moon, Venus, moon trine Jupiter. So that Wednesday is like, that's the day of like, okay, just let it. I don't know if you ever seen people do that. It's like you breathe out and throw your arms back and up like that. And that's kind of what this, that's get a good day for that.
Flowing. Yeah.
Yeah. Get your lymph flowing on this Wednesday. And yes, please like, share, and subscribe. Please.
Twinkle eye, twinkle eye. Well, just like how all those planets were in Aquarius, now we're looking at the Sun, North Node, Venus, Moon, and Mercury, all happily crammed like a pile of puppies in the Pisces house. I really do like that the Moon is there when the Sun moves in. I mean, they were just new the day before in Aquarius, but they both are going to be able to share that house in February, and then again in the new moon in March for Pisces. But yeah, with Venus getting closer and closer, or no, she's just past the North Node. She and the North Node will be together, I think, the same day of the eclipse. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A few hours later. But then after the Sun goes into Pisces, then we have Saturn and Neptune actually together, and they've been co-present within a half a degree since Saturn moved into Aries on the 13th. But this is the perfect conjunction. So again, applying aspects usually are felt more than the perfected aspect, and then they will separate because Saturn moves way faster than Neptune. But this is a biggie. I mean, this has been one that if you're brand new to astrology, you would not have known this, but people have looked at this particular transit for a very long time. And so we have the pleasure of living through it to see exactly how that's going to be. I didn't realize that the moon was going to be there in Aries at the same time. So that's cute.
Punctuation.
Yep. Yeah.
I always say the moon involves itself in every important transit. It really does.
Yeah.
Somehow.
The moon in Aries is like, what is going to happen? Just super nosy.
So this, I think, is so important because it is the 0 degree of Aries. So this is the point that we call astrological new year, which is when the sun enters Aries. It's the 0 degree Aries point. It is the equinox. It's important for the turning of the wheel, this degree. It's a big deal that this is happening at 0 degrees. I don't know that the sun and Neptune come together every 30 years, I guess, however long it takes with both of their orbits. It's probably actually it's probably like 26 years or something, if I had to guess. The
sun and Neptune?
Saturn and Neptune.
Saturn and Neptune, yeah.
Yeah,
like,
so they come
the
together.
Sun goes around every year. I don't know if I told you.
Saturn and Neptune is what I meant.
Yes.
But they do it. It's not like that's the rare occurrence. What's rare is that it's happening at the 0 degree point of Aries. And I wanted to kind of drive that home because
I think it was 1380 was the last time it was together in Aries. And it wasn't even at 0 degrees. So
right. Yeah. And
nobody
that's the weirdest
that.
part. Nope. And that's the thing, is like we've never experienced this, and even historically can't really even look through the lens of a Saturn Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees. It's very difficult. I know that there's some stuff written about it, but I don't know how much you can gather from just what we think it might be like. I think it's going to teach us all a very important astrological lesson. But one of the things that sticks out to me is that Mars rules Aries, and Mars is at 22 degrees. And I looked up the Sabian symbol for 22 degrees of Aries because I was like, I love Sabian symbols, but I don't use them all the time. I just, when there's something important, I wanted to know what the Sabian symbol was for 22 Aries, and you always read for the next degree. And
is it Aries or Aquarius?
Aquarius.
Okay.
Lord. See, Mercury, we're looking at Mercury and Pisces on the chart, and I'm acting like it. Yes, Aquarius 22.
Okay.
It's a big bear sitting down and waving all its paws.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is if you look at the keynote and what that is trying to say, it's self-discipline, which results from an intelligent development of individual faculties under proper training.
Wow. So it's strange because this morning I woke up from a dream that involved bears, and there was a bear that came through a window and sat in the room, and I got all the children away from it and moved up into a loft. And then I went back down, and the bear had grown in size, and it wasn't being aggressive, but I was like, dude, you're a bear. Like, no dice for you. And so I kind of instructed some other people in the dream to shoot warning shots at it, and it ran off. But then I thought maybe that wasn't a good idea, because now the bear is assuming that I'm aggressive towards them. So then we were all loading these bars of gold to put up into the loft to hide out and wait the bear's temper. We were like, the bear's now angry at us, and now we just have to wait out because we have screwed up. So it's just like the bear is waving his paws, being like, I can wait just as long as you can.
I mean, that's incredible, considering you didn't know I would read that Sabian symbol and it would be a bear. But I do, it's interesting because I was like waving its paws, and I thought, oh, that's what a trainer does with bears. Like at the zoo, they get it to sit down and wave its paws like that. And I was like, oh, okay. So there's a discipline here that Saturn and Neptune are kind of inviting out of us, like and it is kind of a time to be disciplined, considering the world is, kind of on its toes. And I think discipline is a very good thing right now, especially with Saturn conjoined Neptune. Neptune doesn't lend itself to discipline at all.
Yeah.
So if you can kind of keep that 22nd degree of Aquarius in your head around this time, and do your best to be self-disciplined. That doesn't mean, listen to what the world tells you about discipline. It means self-discipline. What do you want to continue doing? And I've been trying to tune into, what this might mean as we do. And I thought I'm already seeing it, but I think meaning is going to be a big deal. I read an article the other day about millennials. I'm an elder millennial. I was born in 83. Gen X and millennial. Let's just talk about the end of Gen X, beginning of millennial time period, and how all of these people are leaving office jobs in exchange for something more tangible, more meaningful, like cleaning houses, starting coffee shops, things that bring meaning to their life. And I could see Saturn and Aries being that. Like, I'm tired of my physical action, my physical identity existing in this way of like, okay, I'm going to enter data entry into spreadsheets for the rest of my life. I don't think that's sustainable for humans. Humans need meaning. And I already see it with Warren is in a different job. And it's a really good example because he was doing spreadsheets for a living. And now he's a salesperson. He's selling beer and wine and stuff, but he's getting immediate feedback, right? Like it's the whole sales thing. He's making relationships and people are trusting him. And it's an immediate shift in his fulfillment with regard to career. Even if it's stressful in its own right, you don't ever lose that. But I feel like that's what the Saturn Neptune could. Neptune is spiritual, and I do think Neptune can deal with meaning. Aries certainly is survival and identity, and it's very physical and it's very action oriented. Saturn is like, okay, what do I do with all these things that I need? I need meaning in my life. I need put my hands in the dirt. I need to make sure I know how to grow food. All of these things I think are going to be very big with this Saturn in Aries transit and with this conjunction. It's my prediction. You're welcome.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, if we think of also just the concept of discipline as creating some sort of a framework, a framework of time or expectations or goals. And with Neptune, if we just imagine Neptune as being a planet that disperses things. So like in medicine making, you can You can percuss something by shaking it, and so it disperses that medicine. It's like when you make Italian dressing, you mix olive oil and vinegar and your herbs, and you shake it up to disperse the herbs and make something that's more cohesive. So Neptune is there dispersing that Martian solar fire of Aries, and Saturn's there being like, but I need to know where the limit is. And so the concept of time being the moving image of eternity, it's like the visual that comes to mind is like getting an empty picture frame that has no back, just the frame, and just look at it through the Aries house of your chart. I mean, like, there's going to be plenty of stuff that's dispersed, and I can't address all of it. So I'm just going to address what I can see that's within this frame of my own self-imposed limitation. And, is that your career house? Like for the Thema Mundi, Cancer Risings, that's the top of the chart. That's the most visible. So what is the framework that I'm going to allow myself to focus on? Because I can't focus on all the disbursement. I can't, I can't keep all of that stuff in my own. I can't corral all that cattle. I can only do this bit. And I'm just going to dedicate and create the practice of what it means to provide limitations while Saturn is there. Because Saturn's going to leave, and then you're still going to have Neptune there. And so I think just developing that practice of choosing only a few things to get good at, of creating that discipline in the Aries house of your chart. If Aries is your second house, it's like, okay, well, maybe you have a bunch of ideas of skills that you want to develop. But focus on one or two and just really dedicate the time to just those one or two. And yes, you may be tempted to like go and try something new, but give yourself a 2-year time limitation of getting really good at one or two skills. You just use that and just focus on that, because I feel like that'll be how we can manage Neptune there, is just giving it a little bit, like letting it do what it's going to do and only trying to understand little pockets of it at a time, compartmentalizing it, becoming disciplined within one or two areas. And then, not having it be so overwhelming, because that's the thing about Neptune in a fire sign. It's like this engulfing of all of that confusion of the fiery element. The excited and childlike, defiant and adventurous fiery element of Aries, but it's still overwhelming. There's only so much of that we can take. And so don't be engulfed, but try to take a little bit of that eternal flame and just hold it into like a smaller candle, so you can just deal with that amount of fire and not try to like deal with the entire world around you burning, which is sometimes it feels like. Just tend to your own flame, tend to that flame.
And I think in Aries too, it's like Aries, no one's coming to save you from anything, and I think that is going to be one of the bigger lessons too. Like, you have to make your own way in the world. And how do I do that? And, no one's telling you what to do. No one said you have to go do this or you have to go do that. It's you who tells you that, and I think with Saturn, Neptune, that's going to be a big thing. And like you said, if I realize I have so much agency, well, then you might get like, I want to do all of this stuff, so you have to tell yourself how to be disciplined in this moment. And if it is, you need to create more meaning in your life and you want to leave the spreadsheet job. Well, in order to own a coffee house, it takes a lot of discipline. So none of this is going to come super easy, but it is going to come through practice, so this is like, in the area of the warrior, warriors have to practice their sword skills, like back in ancient times, you didn't just go to war, you had some training, so this is at the very beginning, like it's training, it's discipline. And
it's sparring, using like wooden swords to kind of get used to that. So like if you do have some sort of long-term goal, and especially in your Aries house, like what can you do to mimic that? I mean, that's kind of what, like, I do a lot of dream work. That's the beauty of dream work, is that you can kind of practice what it is like to be in that experience in the dream and then see how you respond to it. Be like, actually,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that I wanted that and I don't. So it's like doing those trial runs. It's like,
Yeah.
you're a musician, one live show is like 10 rehearsals, because just
Yep.
being at like kind of a low consequence show, like at a bar that you're used to playing at, it's still a good rehearsal. It is way better than a rehearsal in your own basement
Yep.
or a recording studio, because there's a little bit of expectation because you have an audience there. Like, to me, that's like getting ready for like a big show. You play at like a local place to kind of give you that practice, that sparring, to develop that skill so that you're ready for the big stage when that stage eventually comes calling. Like, that's like the early degrees Saturn and Neptune there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be talking about this transit for a while, but this is
We
when it
will.
actually comes together.
Yeah. And the
In March, we
reflection
will
is
look
going to be
back.
fun.
Yeah.
We will. I'm looking forward to the reflection on that. And that's really, I mean, I think the Friday before Saturn enters Aries, you're already dealing with it. So I would say
Mm-hmm.
from the 13th through the 20th is the whole of the Saturn Neptune, the budding of those
Mm-hmm.
things, because it's not going to happen, I don't think, before Saturn moves into Aries. It's the 13th through the 20th. We get this big thing, and there's a lot happening in that,
Mm-hmm.
So luckily, on the 22nd, we get Venus trine Jupiter, and we are very excited. I speak for Christa too.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I was just looking at their cycle. They came together August 12th of 2025, and they've gone through this series where Venus is moving faster. They opposed each other. So like Venus was like at the full moon moment of Jupiter on January 9th. And so this is the first aspect that they've made, because Aquarius doesn't see the Cancer house. So now that Venus is in a water sign, she's trining Jupiter. So this is like another really supportive aspect that they're having, that is a part of this whole cycle that they've been together since August 12th, where they came together at 14 degrees Cancer. They've kind of gone through sextile, square, trine, opposition, now a trine again. They're going to go through a square when Venus is in Aries, and then a sextile when Venus is in Taurus. And then they're going to come together again in Cancer before Jupiter moves into Leo later this summer. So
mhm.
I really love this whole story between Venus and Jupiter.
I do too. It's so nice to have both exalted
Mm-hmm.
and to both be. And if you even look, the moon is in Venus's sign. So I,
Exaltation.
exaltation, yes. And it is trying the south node, sextile the north node. It's just wow. Like we deserve this after the Saturn
Yes.
Neptune conjunction.
This is a
And this
treat
is,
yourself sort of a day.
oh yeah. And I would like that. It's also, man, if you want something to go well, do it this day, because
Mm-hmm.
there's no squares. Mars is not yet close to squaring Uranus. Mars is sextile Chiron. There's just a lot to be said about probably having some sort of idea or some sort of notion when
Mm-hmm.
in the previous week, and then being like, I think I can do it. I think I
Mm-hmm.
can make this happen. I feel good about it. My intuition's leading me to the place that it needs to go. Um, yeah, I really like this day.
Yeah.
222.
Yeah. And the moon is growing. So it's like, yeah, I mean, you can find a nuance for your own location, but, you know, having Jupiter exalted, the moon exalted, Venus exalted, Saturn has fallen. So Saturn doesn't have a lot of agency. Mars also doesn't have a lot of agency in Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you can play around with some electional on this day.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
for like Venusian, ultimately Venusian themes. Because if we look at Jupiter is in the moon's temple, the moon's in Venus's temple, Venus is in Jupiter's temple. It's all exalted. It's like the night sect, benefic and luminary are together with a day sect benefic. So I mean, it's just a absolutely lovely moment. And yes, we just
Yes. I'm so excited for it. Like I'm favorite day of the month so far, I think.
yeah.
And after that, get a little quiet. And then comes the last couple things of the month. And that is Mercury retrograde and Mars square Uranus, which I'm
Mm-hmm.
hiding from, obviously. Um, I guess we should tackle that. So enjoy this for a minute,
Mm-hmm.
22nd through actually 21st, 22nd, 23rd, probably is going to be really nice.
With Moon and Taurus, yeah.
And then the moon moves into Gemini later on the 23rd. And then it's probably going to get a little squirrely because Mercury is slowing down and it goes retrograde on the 26th. Barely 26th. It's kind of the 25th for Mountain Time and
West Coast, yeah.
West Coast time. Yeah. So, um, yeah, I mean, this is also Mercury goes retrograde at the moment the moon is squaring Saturn and Neptune.
Yeah.
And it could be that's sort of a reality check, I think. The first moon connection to the Saturn Neptune while they're still close. In that kind of tense, like, oh, this feels a little uncomfortable. And it probably will. And the next day is Mars square Uranus. So this Thursday, Friday is again a little hairy. It's another hairy weekend.
Yeah, and we'll have that practice of Mercury, Venus, the Sun, all squaring Uranus. But Uranus Mars connections have proven to have kind of a track record of chaos. And, when Mars was in Leo, squaring Uranus and Taurus, it was like violent. I mean, Mars Uranus square it's usually not something that we miss. It's usually kind of a noteworthy news day. And usually. So on a personal level, like look at the dates for when Mercury, Venus, and the Sun square it. Mars is going to be there just do that final kick, be like, this is really addressing, because Mars is a personal planet. We can see Mars, Mars travels fairly close to us. And so Mars is one that we consider because we have a visual relationship with Mars. But Mars kind of holds no prisoners, and Mars is about to go into a water sign. And so while it's in that air sign, it's just more active. It's more mouthy. It can be fierce intellectual mission. So it's like trying to prove an argument. It can be like arguments get out of hand within this. So that Thursday, Friday, it could just be, there's a self-righteousness that comes with fixed signs. I'm not going to give it to anyone because all the fixed signs have this of like wanting to be right, because shifting and changing goes against that fixed nature. We all do it, but it's like kind of more difficult for fixed. But that self-righteousness of a Saturnine, Mars, and Aquarius, it can be holier than thou. It can be like, my mission is definitely the only way you should think. And that can come up with some trouble when it addresses Uranus. But it may be like kind of that drive that we need to be like, yes, maybe Mars, your way is not the only way. But there's just that intellectual, pressurized, self-righteous tension that I get from this one that can cause a lot of collateral damage because it's in that fixed cross.
I'm like looking like, it's funny to me that the moon is in Cancer for both the Mercury retrograde and the Mars square Uranus, because the moon will be with Jupiter. And I just feel like we are going to be in our feelings. It does feel a little squirrely with regards to, like you said, it could be violent, it could be explosive. And it seems like we might be seeking comfort from our family or from our friends. I mean, there's going to be a lot of seeking comfort around this time, I think. But I agree. I mean, this is the closing square of Mars Uranus. It's the last time Mars is going to interact with Uranus from fixed signs, just like all the other stuff. And it's like
until Uranus goes into Leo. So in like 20 years. Yeah.
Last hurrah. I mean, which is why I expect it to be maybe bigger than normal, and the moon with Jupiter is kind of a big indicator that I think things might feel big around.
And the sun approaching the north node. And then the sun and Jupiter are getting closer to a trine, which is a signal that Jupiter is going to be going direct soon. So there's lots of like this building of pressure that sun and north node, Uranus square to Mars and the moon and Jupiter. And this is the last time moon and Jupiter will be together while Jupiter is retrograde. So the next time in a month, Jupiter will be direct, and they will be together at the end, right before Jupiter goes into Leo. But like this does feel kind of like a moon check-in with that retrograde Jupiter before Jupiter goes direct in March.
Yeah. As far as the end of the month goes, I mean, this is pretty explosive, but I will say there's one little, like, it's like candy, like, and that's Mercury retrograde conjunct, I said trine, conjunct Venus. It's supposed to be conjunct. But I can fix that later. I just wanted to look at that because these two, Mercury retrograde is always really weird in Pisces. Always. I mean, Mercury in Pisces in general feels like a retrograde sometimes. So to have the retrograde in Pisces is just like, oh,
it's extra.
It's extra.
And we did this last year. Mercury was retrograde in Pisces and Aries last year, but now it's just going to be in Pisces. It's going to be in retrograde in the water signs for 2026. So we already experienced Venus and Mercury retrograde in Pisces in 2025, but now we're doing it again with just Mercury.
So and this is with the moon still in Cancer that Mercury and Venus come together. And I love that. I love it. I think after having the Mars square Uranus, this is like, I feel like there's going to be some messages exchanged with our friends, our loved ones, that is going to be extremely comforting, extremely necessary. If you're feeling weird about the world, this is, be with friends, be with family on that Friday, because so it's the 27th and the Mars square Uranus is it that same 10:20 a.m. So this happens East
same
Coast,
day.
it'll be the 28th, but yeah, it'll be the same day, just like 12 hours apart, almost exactly. It's like 13 hours apart. So you've got it reminds me, and maybe that's just because I have the experience of bartending, what happens when big things happen in someone's personal life or in the collective. People come together at the bar or at the coffee shop or at their house, and they just need to be around people to parse it out and to talk about it. And so that's kind of what I'm picking up on for this moment is you've got Mars square Uranus, and then that night is like, I just need to go out and be with friends and see people,
Yeah, just like as a sign to go through your old texts and text people you haven't talked to in a while. Just like if your heart compels you to say something, say it. Do a little bit of extra good for a stranger. It's like all these things, like what makes us connect to other people is love. And so finding these little mercurial morsels of ways to express love, just for love's sake, and you start with your immediate community, with your reciprocal circles, that your inner circle, and then as it goes out, so that you can kind of make this very gentle splash through that Mercury Venus connection.
I love that. So
you get to end on that. That's a nicer end.
I agree. And here we are, the whole month. Just clicked off of it for myself. There we go. So do our thing where we go, what's your favorite and what's your least favorite? This one's a hard one.
I'm looking forward to the eclipse. I'm just gonna like the eclipse. I'm looking forward to. I just can't help myself.
Yeah, I like the full moon to begin
Mm-hmm.
the month, but I think my favorite is Venus trine Jupiter. And
Yeah.
that might be a crazy take considering we have the Saturn Neptune conjunction right before it, but I love that. I loved even Venus ingress into Pisces too.
Mm-hmm.
I think my least favorite is probably Mars square Uranus. I think
Yeah.
that's gonna be my vote for um yikes, you know.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one. That's
Yeah.
that's the one to just take it
Yeah,
easy.
it is. It is. And so we've got, where is, okay, so you've got Sunday the 8th, Venus square Uranus, Sunday the 15th, Sun square Uranus. There was something else. Mercury squares Uranus on the 5th. That's right. So Mercury square Uranus, Venus square Uranus, Sun square Uranus, and then Mars square Uranus. So those are the dates that we have to. This is a month to surf the waves.
Hmm. Yeah, and like just looking at it, thinking about it, in Hellenistic astrology, there's the idea of perfection year. So you have like a Lord of the Year, and so depending on what year you're in, whatever planet you really the transits to that own planet in your chart, and then the transits of it in the sky, you pay attention to. So we have Saturn with the Saturn in Aries. We have Mars with
That's
Mars
mine.
square Uranus. We have Jupiter connecting with Venus. I think that the benefics kind of get out the best during the month of February because we have Venus exalted, Jupiter's exalted. They connect together. They both talk to the moon. They both talk to Mercury. But if you have the sun or the moon as your time lord, you're going to have an eclipse. That's a big one. If you have Saturn as your time lord, you have Saturn fallen. If you have Mars as your time lord, Mars is going to be engaging in that square with Uranus, which is no easy feat. So I think that if you have a benefic as your time lord this year, it seems like February is more supportive. But if you have a luminary or if you have a malefic, it's going to be just more challenging.
Yeah.
But those challenges also propel us forward. So it's it's not something that you have to necessarily fear. It's just like a heads up that maybe there's going to be a bit more of a difficulty.
Yeah. And I wanted to kind of share just if people are watching this and wondering what perfection year they're in, these are the ages and the houses. So for instance, if you're use myself, I'm a Cancer rising, which is my first house. Leo would be my second. Virgo is my third. So you go around like that. And if you, I'm 42, so you'd find 42 here. I'm in a seventh house year. That's Capricorn for me. That means Saturn is my time lord. So Saturn moving into Aries will be a big deal for me. What year are you in, Christa?
I'm in a 10th house Leo year, so the sun is for me. And so you start
Mm-hmm.
with your birthday. So like my birthday's in May, so my 10th house year began in May of 2025 and will last until May of this year. And then I'll move into an 11th house Mercury year from May 2026 to May 2027. So if you want to know more about that, both Mandi and I are qualified to talk to you about this. I love perfection years just to see
Me
what part
too.
of your chart is being highlighted, the transits to those planets, how they can be effective. It's a very practical use of astrology. So it's not dealing with everything all at once. It's like, what's the area of focus that is being highlighted? And you can layer that with your solar return and your natal. It's one of the ones that I feel like, even if you're brand new to astrology, you can grasp the kind of the to-do list of a perfection year of what to expect and how to engage with it and when it will be activated. I love using perfection years, especially for people that are new to astrology, just to be able to give them something to grasp onto.
I completely agree. And I'm going to show this one more time because I do have the dates for Mercury retrograde. So I'll post this and Christa will have hers as well. February 26th through March 20th. And then the Mercury trines to Jupiter are February 16th, March 9th, and April 3rd. So
Nice.
those are some things to pay attention to. But just as the perfection year, back on that, if you're in, for instance, a Leo sun year, then the solar eclipse would be a big deal for you, right? So,
Yeah.
and if you're in a Sagittarius or a Pisces year, then Jupiter is going to feature. So
Mhm.
um, like you said, it's one of my favorite ways to engage with astrology or perfection years. And I found them to be extremely on point,
Mhm.
extremely on point. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, one of my
yeah.
favorite years was a sixth house Mars year. I mean, I just absolutely loved it. I also really liked my eighth house Mercury year. Like that was a fabulous one. So it's ahead of time. I was not looking forward to those years, but then reading into it and then experiencing it, I absolutely loved them. So it's on paper, you might think that it would be bad to be in a Saturn ruled year, but like Saturn has so many great lessons that using the perfection year and using the timing around it can really give you a heads up of like how to make the most of it.
I agree. My poor daughter is in a sixth house year, and I just told her last night, I was like, it's almost over. Your birthday's almost here. And she's had trouble upon trouble, and she had strep throat that came back, and it's just like, and it's Aquarius for her. She's oh wait, no, Pisces. Yeah. So anyway, it's just one of those things that
Yeah.
I'm looking at, and I'm telling even my own family, and a lot of times it's just good to feel like I need a shift to happen, and
Mm-hmm.
and it will, and to know that it's going to change and it's going to be okay. So
Yeah. That's a bumper sticker. Shift happens.
for many reasons, I have a manual Civic. That's perfect.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, Christa, for
Yeah. Thank you.
inviting me to do these every month. I enjoy it. And we'll be back again for March and
March
the
4th.
Ides. Yeah, the Ides. So February.
February the day. Yeah.
And then maybe not the Ides of March. Maybe the Eyes of March is a good one.
Oh, it just means middle. So
I
it's
don't know.
just to me, it's like the crossroads that what are you going to choose sort of a thing. But I have one of my
Yeah.
best friends was born on the Ides of March. So,
Mm-hmm.
and one of my ex-boyfriends. So mixed bag.
Yeah. Warren's pretty close. March 11th. Pretty close. All right,
Well,
guys. Well, I guess that'll be it because we could talk forever and ever. But please like, share, and subscribe, like Krista said. I'm at Ecstatic Astro or Ecstatic Astrology on everything, and you're at Practical Astros on most all social media and websites and
yep.
Substacks and things like that. And we're going to keep it going this year.
That's right. All right. Enjoy the eclipse, y'all. We'll see you in March.
Like and subscribe.